Larry Feldman is probably the most amazing trainer that I've ever experienced in this business. I've been in the car business now for 35 years. I've seen quite a few trainers. A lot of them are pretty good. I mean, really, I get something out of all of them that I've seen, really. But Larry is in another class. I really mean that. His training is literally riveting. A little while back, I sat in on his first training that I ever sat in on. It was for new hires. I still remember, I'll never forget it. About 25 people in the room who had never sold cars before. And he started to do his training. And after 2 hours, I was in the back of the room and I raised my hand meekly and Larry stopped what he was doing and said, yes. And I said, maybe we should take a break. And literally, I'll never forget it. All 25 people turned around, looked at me and went, well, okay. And they turned back to Larry and Larry looked at me and go, okay. And he kept going for another 2 hours. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it myself. Since then, I've seen a few other of his trainings. I've hired people out of his classes. Some of those have gone on to management. I'm still in touch with them. I'm good friends with them. But I've seen some great salespeople come out of there. All I can say is you got to give him a try. I've seen him literally, I've heard people tell me, and I've seen it. He changes lives. It's his class is free to the hirees, and I've seen him, interview people that really don't have, a chance of becoming a salesperson. And he said, just come to the class. It might improve your life. And they thanked him afterwards because it really did. So if you can, give him a shot. You won't be sorry, I promise.
Good morning, and go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I do have to say, Larry, I have a real problem with your little lead-in logo now, and I'm very upset. The Career Changes USA is very fine and dandy, but I'm sorry, but we met you in Canada. We set you up in Canada. You need to put Canada in there too, okay?
No problem.
Nevertheless, welcome everybody to the Larry Feldman Show. On the AutoHub show here, I do like to start with a little bit of a disclaimer that the views and opinions of those of our guest, number one guest Larry, and then the bevy of people that are joining us to extol his virtues, are those of them and may not necessarily be the opinion of ours or politically correct, although we have sat down with Larry and talked to him about that. If you want the actual details, please go to our website and take a look.
And just a book recommendation, if you haven't checked out Larry's book, Inner More on Demons, maybe Larry can talk a little about it on the show, but definitely check it out. It's available, I think, on Amazon and elsewhere, wherever you buy books. And if you are going to be in Toronto for the Used Car Week, that's Canada's Used Car Week later this month, there's going to be a live panel on the 29th. Larry will be there in person. We'll be also broadcasting it. If you can't be there live, it's going to be a discussion on subprime, which should be pretty interesting. It's one of the largest used car conferences in Canada. Not big on a U.S. side, but probably 500 dealers, etc. in there. So let's get into the show. And this is a little bit on Larry. If you didn't know anything about Larry, maybe Larry can talk a little bit about himself.
Sure. Well, first of all, before I say anything about myself, I'm really grateful for the people who decided to join us on the show. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Sandy face to face, but a lot of people on this show are just terrific people. They're very talented in what they do, but the reason I asked you to invite them was their attitude. You won't find a people with a better group of attitudes than the one that are on this show today. I bill myself, and a lot of people, believe it or not, agree with me that I'm the best trainer and recruiter on the planet. Forget about Canada and US, on the planet. I like to tell you I'm as tall as Tony Robbins. I'm not. Other than my wife and my girlfriend, nobody will tell you I'm handsome. But I bring it every day. I'm glad I'm alive. I'm glad I'm breathing. Every day I do my best. I'm not interested in bullshit excuses or any kind of nonsense. Man, we're here. It's a gift to be breathing, and I bring it. So I'm absolutely thrilled. My story is simple. Like a lot of people, I wandered into a job that I wasn't sure about, car sales. I wound up destroying everybody in terms of I outsold them. I killed them. I sold way more cars. I wound up being a partner at the dealership. When we sold the dealership, I helped somebody recruit and train. They would have had to improve to be terrible. They were cynical. They didn't care about the dealers or the candidates, so I started my own company. That was in 2012. And along the way, I've got a chance to meet a lot of the terrific people that are on this show. I see Don Graff is on the show. Don, I spoke to your parole officer. We are going to be able to beat that racket, okay?
Well, thanks, Larry. Much appreciated. Joining us as nicely invited guests are the aforementioned Don Graff, who's the president of Don Graff Automotive Advisors. As I always say, in the greatest named town I could ever imagine, Bonita Springs, Florida. Don, say hi, and we've got a big group here, so extremely brief introduction.
Hi, Don Graff, President Don Graff Automotive Advisors. We provide strategies to increase sales and profitability for car dealers. We believe in the 4 quadrants: people, visibility, processes, and finance. We believe dealers have problems in one of those 4 areas. And if my friend Larry isn't covering any of them, I'll be happy to help you with the other ones.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next, we have Anthony Auletto. I apologize, Tony, if I get it wrong. Goes by Tony.
Only his mother calls him Anthony. Call him Tony.
I was just saying that, Larry, please. Tony Auletto is a GM of Fred Beans Kia, and frankly, Larry said he put a name in there to make it Tony Auletto Kia. From Richboro, Pennsylvania. Tony, say hi. Brief introduction, please.
Hey, thanks for having me. I've been dealing with Larry for some years now, and he asked me to be on the show, and I would never turn down my buddy. I've been doing this for 22 years. Been with Fred Beans for about going on 5 years, and I just thought it was a good opportunity to help out Larry, and I always like to talk about the car business.
Awesome. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us too. Next, we have joining us, as Larry already said, he's never met her, but boy, she's a great friend of the show, Sandy Zanino. She's from somewhere in Florida, but judging by the background of her, she's a little further north. Sandy, say hi and tell us where you are and a brief introduction.
I am. Hi, everybody. It is such a pleasure to be here again. I get to say again. The AutoHub show is always a lot of fun. I'm in Baltimore, Maryland at the moment. So it's beautiful weather, and I hope you all are enjoying some great weather too. So, but I live in Sarasota, Florida, and from Sarasota, Florida, I help car dealers protect their profits, and also to help them build a culture and an organization where their new recruits will want to stay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next, we have with us here Harry Wilner, very interesting gentleman, who is a GM of Fleetway Leasing and Sales in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. However, he's the self-proclaimed sidekick to Larry Feldman. Harry, say hi and a brief introduction, please.
Hi, it's Harry Wilner. Yes, I was with Fleetway Leasing Company. We leased mainly to the rental car industry, and for a number of years, we were the Highline used car leasing company. Had a portfolio of $50 million, and we decided to retire finally. Larry, who I've known for 30 years, dragged me out of retirement. And I'm not his sidekick. The federal marshals hired me to make sure he stays in the bounds that he has to stay. He does have a band called the Real Fugitives, so use it for your imagination that day. Thanks for having me, guys. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. We're going to get started in the questions, but I do want to acknowledge the other people tuned into the show. Some of our great friends. We have our little friend John Pistakos, who's trying to negotiate stairs with his phone. We have Stephen Granger joining us, I still think from Austin, Texas, unless he's become big and gone to New York City. Matt, David Long, who might be doing what he always does best, tuning in from us for our show anyway on his drive into work. Janice, Stan, Joe, Tom, and Matt. So thank you very much. Ian, please go ahead with our first question for Larry, which he won't answer.
What draws people such as yourself to be fans of Larry? So why don't we start with someone other than Larry? Let's talk with Tony on that.
Well, that's an easy question for me. Larry, in this business, I've done with a lot of training. I've dealt with a lot of different companies. What really makes Larry different and draws real car people towards Larry is his connection with them. You know, he's done it. Most of the trainers, I'm sure, we hire today, if we told them to go out on the floor and sell a car, they'd probably, quit, or they would just, give some excuse why they couldn't. Larry, I have no hesitation to send him out and talk to a customer and know that he would give him a great experience and do everything that he trains. So me personally, when I go through any type of training in my career, I always want to respect that person as a professional. So it's, for me, that's the really draw towards somebody like Larry. He's been in the business. He knows the objections. And it's not just about overcoming objections. It's eliminating them before they start. And that's, where me and Larry really hit it off. And, just a mutual respect from two people who are good at what they do. So I think that's very important, whatever you're doing, is that you have some real life experience with them. And that Larry certainly does have.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. John, obviously we were just in Edmonton with John and Larry, and John's actually represented a lot of different trainers over the years. Maybe you can give us some thoughts. You're muted, just so you know.
You got to unmute, John. Either that or say some flowery sign language about me.
Hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Go ahead, John.
So, yeah, we've done a couple of seminars, and they're tremendous. I think the one thing that I saw about Mr. Larry, other than the incident at the airport that we can't talk about, Larry, right?
Absolutely.
That was incredible. But his ability, like at store door, we did some store door visits on the Monday before the seminar, and I have never seen anybody be able to connect with a group of people like Larry did. And he can be talking one day, he can have a conversation with anybody. You can throw him into the room with the president of the United States. He's going to get his attention. They're going to be laughing. You can put him in the room with a nun, get attention. You can put him in the room with bikers. Doesn't matter who it is. He's able to really connect with people because he loves people. So that's, I witnessed that with my own eyes. It was really tremendous.
Fantastic.
Really tremendous to see. And so that was really fantastic.
Cool. David, did you want to comment?
David Long?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I'd love to. I'm in charge of Larry's fan club, which makes me the #1 fan. And Larry does a lot for the Hansel Automotive Group, and I'm incredibly grateful to everything he does. But most importantly, I just love how he connects with our team members. I love how he screens applicants. I love how he only puts people in front of me that are worth my time. But I am a total fan, and I'm excited to be here and listen. And I'm glad to be here on the AutoHub show with a lot of my very, very good friends. And I will listen for now until asked a question.
Fair enough. Who wants to go next? Let's see. Joe, did you want to comment? You're muted.
Sorry, trying to work and listen at the same
Well,
time.
that's
No,
okay.
Larry's awesome. If you haven't read his book, go get it, because you're an inner moron demon if you don't. And it's phenomenal. And, you know, I've only known Larry a short time, but he's already had a tremendous impact on my outlook on just the car business in general. So excited for the show.
Cool.
I got to say something. This is like being at my own funeral. Everybody's saying nice things about me. The only thing my wife isn't clutching the draft from the insurance company.
Sandy, you got any thoughts? I know they're probably going to be more conservative. Go ahead.
Why would you think that they would be more conservative?
Go ahead, Sandy.
I mean, you have. Yeah, I mean, Larry hasn't met me, but you have definitely met me. I can't, and I am after sitting here and listening to the eulogies pre Larry.
Thank John.
You know, you're still here, right? Thank God. And I'm really, really looking forward to meeting you so we can exchange some fun stories.
That would not be a problem. You look like you got a lot of energy and fun and vitality. And man, life is short. Might as well go for it, right?
You know, I am a human resources professional, but I bring humanity back into HR, right?
Perfect.
Fantastic. Don, any thoughts?
Wow. Larry.
He's trying to figure out why his daughter shouldn't marry this guy. Well, Larry.
You know, Larry is probably one of the most sincere people I've met in the car business. Certainly. And he is also one of those most supportive people. We've talked about doing some business together, and he's been very supportive, helped me with some ideas, introduced me to some other people that may be helpful with us with our ventures. And certainly he's not one of those people that says anything negative unless an idea doesn't have any value at all. And he'll tell you like it is.
Fantastic. Jeff, go ahead.
So Larry asked me this the other day, and then I had to cut him off because I had to run. So what was the people I asked, what was your epiphany? Basically, I'll call it to find the car business as your home, and Larry just sort of had anything. But I'm going to ask Harry that because he hangs around the most here.
You know, Larry's not your typical trainer. He's not sitting with a Bible in front of you and reading page for page, throwing something up on a screen. The training sessions are really about people skills, nothing to do with the auto industry. It's more people skills, being a person. It's like, you know, you invited these group of people into your house and we're going to have a discussion. And it's just an amazing thing. I've known Larry for 35 years. I just recently started working with him. He dragged me out of retirement. I was enjoying traveling. My wife said, get him out of the house. And here I am, his sidekick now.
Harry, in your intro, you said you knew me 30 years. Now it's 35. Why is it with car salespeople, the number always continues to go up? I'm not quite sure about that.
We start high and go lower, though.
Okay. I guess that's reasonable.
So by the end of the show, you'll be at what, 10 years?
Listen, let me give you my epiphany, if you don't mind.
Of course.
I get into the car business, and here's why I stuck with it. I loved it. First of all, I'm a freak of nature. I am a lead singer of a band, as mentioned, the Real Fugitives. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I don't get high. I am truly high on life. But I never saw any high anybody experienced that is better than the high when somebody says yes. It never gets old. Thank God I'm up to 200 dealers. I picked up 2 more over the weekend. It was like the greatest feeling. I was like a little kid that got candy. It's the love of yes. It's the fact that it really is fun to constantly be in a situation where you meet different people and you can always get excited. It's Thoreau said, most men, and Sandy by proxy, most women, lead lives of quiet desperation. But to go to work every day and be excited is great. And the third part of my epiphany, it was a 3-part epiphany, was I realized how many people that are quote unquote professional are morons. The lack of commitment, the apathy, the fact that they sucked and they didn't care that they sucked, it propelled me. I worked with people that would send the lot guy after he just smoked a joint out to get the serial number off the car. So the S became a 5 and the whole deal went south, or the miles were wrong. I didn't make a mistake in 11 years and I averaged 31 and a half cars a month. I'm not that smart. I just didn't want to do a deal twice. Tony will tell you I'm out of my mind, but Tony, have I ever given you a phone number that wasn't perfect? Never. You don't even have to answer, Tony. Just sit there and go, answer. I got this now. Not complicated, but I'm going to throw one more thing and then I'll shut up. I'm so enjoying the guy that came on early, who hopefully is the one he was having a computer problem, is Tom Backer. And I met Tom Backer because I got involved with the Prestige Group, and they had these giant mausoleums. They had them in Ramsey, New Jersey, giant BMW, Mercedes, and I killed them. And they said, would you go to Stamford, Connecticut? And I figured, hey, Tony, I figured I got a shot at meeting Keith Richards. I'll definitely go to Stamford. And I wound up at Prestige, and you heard that story. Well, Tony, you love me, but I think Backer loves me more. I have never, no, this guy pays his managers to come in on a day off so he can come to my class every time. And one day I'm in my class, and a kid stands up and says, Mr. Feldman, you look pretty smart. So the only time in my life I was self-deprecating, I said, well, I don't know how smart I am. He said, what book should I read? I get asked this all the time. Now, I could have mentioned Carl Sewell, right? Great book on excellence, or Tom Hopkins, or certainly the late great Zig Ziglar. But I honestly think the path to anything doesn't have to be a direct path. You know, and I wanted to tell the kid, why don't you read Truman by David McCullough, which won the Pulitzer Prize? Why don't you read the damn Bible? Because every fictional, non-fictional, every story, every joke, if you go backwards, somehow comes from the Bible. There's so much wisdom in it, whether you're religious or not. But I didn't want to do that. And I always like to amaze Tom Backer. We've become best buddies. Same thing with David Long, Rhonda, Don Graff, my buddy Joe Caruso from that crazy state of California. So I pulled something out of my wallet, and I'm going to read it to you folks, and then I promise I'll shut up, but don't hold me to that. I said, here, you ready, my buddy? You got your pen? He says, yeah. This is from a rabbi, okay, Dov Ber, the Mazid of Meserik. He said, in the service of God, or David Long, in the service of selling more cars in your community, in the service of God, you can learn 3 things from a child and 7 from a thief. From a child, you can learn to always be happy, 2, to never sit idle, and 3, to cry for everything you want. This is even better. From a thief, you could learn 1, to work at night. 2, if you can't get what you want one night, to try again the next night. 3, to love one's coworkers just as thieves love each other. 4, to be willing to risk one's life even for a little thing. 5, not to attach too much value to things, even though one has risked one's life for them, just as a thief will resell a stolen article for a fraction of its real value. This is my favorite. 6, to withstand all kinds of beatings and torture, but to remain what you are. And 7, to believe that your work is worthwhile and not be willing to change it. I think if you grasp any of that, if you realize you're lucky that my father always said, man, I thought I was bad off with no shoes till I met a man with no feet. Where else but the car business can you be partners with billionaires? And that's what happens when you're a salesperson. They'll never ask you to pay the floor plan, the light bill. All they want you to do is split the profit. What a great deal. And yet I've run into so many salespeople that don't appreciate it. So many managers that don't understand the concept of the word manage. So, man, I'm just glad I'm alive. I'm glad I got so many cool friends on this show. I'm glad people pay me to be a little crazy. And that's it. I am shutting up.
Well, I thought it'll only be for just another minute or so. Tony, other than your epiphany of bumping into Larry somewhere, what was your epiphany to find your path?
You know, when I first was introduced into the business, both my parents were state employees, so that's the direction they started pushing me. And I just immediately knew it wasn't for me. And remember seeing an ad in the paper, you know, for a place called Potter Hillman, which was an old Ford, Jeep, and Eagle store. I said, man, I know a guy that sold cars. I could do that. You know, but when you got there, it was just a whole different experience, like Larry and everybody was saying so far. The chance to connect with people and be in control of your own destiny, so to speak. I mean, there's no other industry where no matter what you did in high school, no matter what you did in college, if you even went to college, that you can control your own outcome.
Hey, Tony, you can give yourself a raise.
Exactly.
You can give yourself a raise. What other business?
Right. What other job can somebody come to you and say, hey, I'm not
Hold on
making
a
enough
second.
money?
Jeff and Ian, I said I was going to shut up. Don't you guys have that mute button ready? I'm sorry, but
You need like a cough button for that. But yeah, where else can you have an employee come in your office and say, hey, I'm not making enough money? And you can easily teach them how to give themselves a raise. It's just, where else can you have a better opportunity to accomplish everything you want to accomplish? And all you have to do is want to help people and give great service. That's what I love about Larry's trainings too. It has nothing to do with the car business. You can come out of Larry's class and do better at Chick-fil-A or better wherever you work. It has nothing to do with the automotive industry. It's just customer service and helping people.
hey, do me a favor. Ask my two buddies from California, because Joe Caruso is just an incredibly good trainer. And I got to tell you something, David Long, you don't know this, but I had somebody reach out to me for a job that worked for you, and they were moving, and they said, I got to tell you, I really don't want to leave David Long. You don't hear that too much from guys on the floor. So let's get everybody, but could we hear from David or Joe, or whoever wants to go first? What was your epiphany? What was your moment where it flashed in your eyes and you said, and this is me?
Joe.
As far as getting into the car business,
Your epiphany, when you knew this was for you.
I was 9 years old. I sold my first car when I was 9 years old. When kids were running around wanting to be firefighters, policemen, astronauts, I said, I'm selling cars. I've never wanted to do anything else. And, my dad was a dealer. My brothers are dealers. It's in my blood. I love this business. There's nothing like it.
Mr. Long, elucidate and illuminate us, please.
So this is not going to be a popular answer, but I'm still waiting to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. I haven't ever sold cars. I have never really liked cars, but I love people and I love seeing the light bulbs come on. I love changing lives. And now you got me curious. Who the heck in my team is moving? That's all I want to know. Now I can't think about anything but that.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you offline because I got to talk to anyway. I got those 3 managers I'm interviewing. Hey, David, let me throw one thing, and I know I'm back to not shutting up. John Kostakis, who's an unbelievable promoter, said I shouldn't tell the on-air Canada story. And my publicist, Rhonda's on, I'm going to give her a stroke. I'm telling the damn story anyway. Because I think it encapsulates what makes every one of you great and what hopefully will make me great. David, I go to Edmonton, and I get there. I meet 20 dealers. I swear to you, we put every one of them in our back pocket. They loved us. They weren't used to the craziness. I gave 2 seminars, 3 hours and 15 minutes. I had to throw people out of the room. I'm thinking, man, I'm rocking. I go to the airport at 4 o'clock in the morning. I want to get home in the middle of the day because I got tons of things to do. And the lady says, do you have your negative COVID test? I'm like, I didn't know I needed a negative COVID test.
Welcome to Canada.
Go right down to that room, about 100 yards down. They'll give you a test, and we can be up. So as I'm walking, I think, I feel great. But it would really be wild if I had COVID because I'm in Canada, and Canada is not a free and easy country. No disrespect to my Canadian buddies, Jeff and Ian. And I take the test, and it's negative. It's positive. And the guy was so nice. You know how Canadians are. Hey, you're going to have to spend 5 days with us, my friend. We're going to have to, you're going to have to stay here in Edmonton. David, I had no desire to be in Edmonton. Even Wayne Gretzky didn't want to stay in Edmonton. So I folded the paper in half. So all you saw was the barcode. I found they had 4 nice-looking women, the whole thing. I walked up to one. I handed her my bags. I handed her my passport. I handed her the form with the thing facing up for the barcode. The bottom said positive. And before she could say anything, I said, I got to tell you, I love Edmonton. What a friendly city. I flirted with this woman so hard. She's probably pregnant by now, just how hard I flirted with her. And I got on the damn plane and I got home. And by the time I got 2 days back home, I made 4 more deals. I didn't affect anybody. I wore 7 masks. I looked like Fauci on a bad day. A guy that works for me, not the guys on the show, said, only you would be insane enough to try that. No, I had a positive attitude. What the hell did I have to lose? And I smiled.
2 weeks in jail.
I got Don Graff on here. Don Graff's my parole officer. He'll straighten all that stuff out. Don't let the quiet demeanor for you. So I know I'm a little insane, but at least I didn't start cursing or moaning or hollering. Let me talk to Trudeau. And I said, what do I have to lose? Listen, David, I outsold everybody you ever saw. Our store did 150 cars a month. I did 31 and a half of them. My grosses were the highest. My CSI was the highest. There's nothing special about me. But the idiots I work with, when you pulled up in a car, they already figured it was too old. It was too new. You were wasting time. They knew you weren't buying. Everybody that I walked up to knew that I was going to sell them and that I was smiling at them. I was energetic. I say it in every class. If you're all adults, if you're sick, you call the doctor. But if it's your baby, okay, if it's an infant, if it's a dog, it's scary because we can't fix something until we know what's wrong. And every one of you goes home to somebody, and when you're having a rotten day, they say, what's wrong? You say nothing, but they always know because it's all over your face. So I don't think there's anything more in life and in car sales than just having a great attitude, just being positive, being upbeat. You didn't hit that damn mute button again. I don't know what's wrong with you, Jeff.
It was the one joke. It was a really good joke the first time. The second time, it just gets annoying. Thanks, Larry.
Really annoying. That's hard to believe. Do we have Tom Backer on the show? Did he make it on?
Looks like he's on there.
We see Tom is there with
iPhone 2. Is that Tom?
the iPhone 2 Tom.
Well, Tom Backer is the Zen master. The fact that we're best friends is physically impossible because I'm annoying and crazy. Tom is like talks to flowers and trees. He grows mushrooms. I don't know if he smokes them, but he grows them. So if Tom's here, we can get a word from him. Completely different perspective than mine. Actually normal.
Is that you, Tom? Is that Tom Backer, iPhone Tom? You're muted if it is. I don't
Well,
know.
until we hear from Tom, I have to make a comment that Larry, I'm very disappointed because I saw in your profile that you said you went to Stanford. You didn't say Connecticut. I thought you went to school in Stanford.
I'm not smart enough to go to one of those heavy duties.
Yes. Sandy, what do you think your epiphany was?
That's an interesting question. Actually, I felt like many people, I fell into the automotive business. But the reason that I stayed, there were a couple of reasons. First, I fell in love with the people, right? With all of the characters that were working at the store and or the stores with the group that I was with. The second thing that I realized through a lawsuit, like something happened, it was a wage and hour case of he said, she said, and there was no bad intent. Without telling you the whole long story, there was no bad intent on the part of the dealer. It was one little thing that somebody didn't know, right? And later on, that employee went back and went to the Department of Labor, and it was a shock to everybody because we were like, what? And this former employee won, and it was like more than I was making in 2 years is what. And what I realized then was knowledge is power, and if I learn and do these things, I can make a difference, right, on both sides. So that was my epiphany, that I could make a difference, which is important to me.
It's actually quite interesting that you said that very quickly. Nobody asked me, but my epiphany was in the business when I actually joined a dealership trying to find myself. And I found I actually could make a difference when you had somebody walking around looking for that old pickup truck in the back. It doesn't start. You finally put a deal together and they leave with a smile on their face. So that's very true. Last but not least on this question, I'm going to ask Dawn, who's sitting there very, very, I can see him doing that. Me, pick me.
That's very funny. You know, I have a degree in English literature. I was taught by Augustinian fathers in Miami, Florida, and I got in the car business. And none of my family really wanted me to be in the car business, but went to work for a Volvo dealer in Somerville, New Jersey. And my first manager wanted to get that niceness out of me. So he was trying to teach me GFTT, which is go for the throat. However, I had customers like Doris Duke's chauffeur and some bankers and some congressmen and stuff, and those were the kind of people who were attracted to me, as well as blue collar people. And I was able to sell anyone because I was likable. I wasn't because I was hard. I was easy to read. I was friendly. People opened up to me. People would tell me anything. When I started being interested in consulting, I went to interview for JD Power position, and they hired me out of it was 30 of us out of 1,000 people. And I stayed with them for a couple of years, and I went to work for several other consulting companies, and I liked that a great deal. And I went back into retail, and I went to NADA Dealer Academy and decided I wanted to run dealerships.
Don, we're not looking for an autobiography. What was your epiphany? What was the moment where a light came in your eyes and you said, "This is it"?
The light came on my eyes when I realized that I could help people achieve their dream or put a car in their driveway that they didn't think they could have.
That's perfect. Now, that's awesome. Now, let me add two things, a rebuttal to Sandy and to David Long. David Long and I, believe it or not, he won't want to be compared to me because I'm mentally impaired, but David Long and I think the same thing. What do we want to be when we grow up? Everybody that knows me knows I love the Rolling Stones. Mick Jagger said, if I'm singing Satisfaction at 30, shoot me. He's singing it now at 78. And as far as you, Sandy, you had the wrong epiphany. It sounds to me like you should get involved in a slip and fall case. I'll come over, we'll find a waxy floor. You won't be able to back up the money. Hey, do me a favor, just a real quick epiphany. Could we hear from Troy Glenn? I like this guy. I never get a chance to talk to him. He always sends me nice messages. Troy, what lit you up? And then we can get on to the next topic if you don't mind.
If we're talking about epiphanies, I'm like Sandy. I fell into the business as well, but I've been a car guy my whole life. As a kid, you always loved the sports cars and the muscle cars and all that stuff. And I was selling clothes, and it was okay. I worked in hotels for 15 years, and it was okay. But as soon as I got to walk into a car dealership and see all the activity, and as you guys said, meet all the characters and the maniacs and the crazy people and the customers, I was hooked.
The man found his passion. All right, guys, I just didn't want to leave Troy out.
No problem.
Well, if we're not going to leave anybody out, Stan, seeing as how you put a little comment there that you're in a project with, and we don't really want to know what it is, but what was your epiphany? Stan, sure.
Hey guys, sorry, I'm driving, so, but thanks for having me on. My epiphany was 20 years old, right in college, moved out on my own. My parents moved to another state, and I took a job selling cars. And first two cars I sold a week after training, first down the floor. First one was to a fresh ups I took. Second one was to his brother. He brought me a referral and realized I made over $1,000. And I was like, okay, maybe this is what I should be doing. And then months later, I'm in history class in college, and I realized I just made more money last week than my adjunct college professor teaching me about Abraham Lincoln. And it got me really in love with the car industry. And I just made a career out of it. And I'm almost 20 years in, and I refuse to leave it. I love what I do.
That's great. Thank you very much. Ian, let's get to another question.
Yeah, we got some comments from YouTube and from LinkedIn. Brooke wanted to say that she loves you guys, and I'm not sure who Can of Soup is, but Larry's the best. So next topic. Why should dealers outsource recruiting and or training? Because I know that a lot of dealers think they can train their team. Larry, what do you think?
I think that if that if your accountant, your controller is also your used car manager, you're screwed up at both spots. Training and recruiting are full-time things. Now, if you happen to have some managers that are really good at training, okay, listen, Zig Ziglar said training's like bathing. It doesn't last. I recommend it every day. But recruiting is a very time-consuming thing. And I'm not tooting my own horn. We're dedicated. I think if you ask any recruiter what they do all day, there's a lot of calls. It's chasing a lot of people. So I think it's a detriment because if you are doing your own recruiting, you're not desking a deal, you're not talking to a customer, you're not taking care of business. And as far as the training, hey, if you're a terrific trainer and you can keep it in-house, keep it in-house. But I never forget going, and I won't say any names in this one, going to training, and I came back and I said to my GM, I was just a lowly salesperson. I learned a bunch of stuff, and he said, quote, we're not going to mess with that crap. We're going back to what we always do. So it's like everything else. If it's a process, everybody has to be involved. If 5 people are rowing and one's rowing the wrong way or the other way, you're going in a circle. So, sell cars, keep your service department popping, call Larry Feldman, let him handle all your recruiting and service and sales training needs, and it's easy.
Fantastic. Tony, what do you think? You're muted. Just
Yep. There we go. So, as far as recruiting versus training, or
do you think you should do your training and recruiting in-house, or you think you should outsource that, and why?
I think a healthy combination of both. I definitely agree with Larry that it should be done daily. But how often are we taking time to train the trainer, so to speak? I was always told that practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect, and you can't possibly. I've been doing this 22 years. I'm sure everybody else would agree that's been doing this long enough. You hardly ever run into the same scenario twice. So you need to keep sharp and just keep in mind that we all have the same product. We all have the same APR specials. We all have the same rebates. The only difference in why somebody's going to do business with you and continue to, which Larry can probably talk on this more than most, is because of you. It's all about you and what value you present to your customer. That's where most people get sidetracked. We can talk about overcoming every objection in the world. Doesn't matter. If you are not the right person, they're not going to buy another car from you, and they're not going to like Larry. You've been out of selling cars how long, Larry? 10 years now?
10 years.
Right.
Although I still sell 5 or 6 a month from people that won't go anywhere else. Tony, I was thinking about it. For anybody who doesn't know, Tony's in a beautiful new building, 2 years old. So on that side, the other side with the receptionist, you got a really big puddle there all the time. Let's talk to Sandy. Maybe we can do that fall down scam that you were talking about. Sandy, reach out to Tony. We can make some money on this.
We got cameras on every angle. So.
Sandy, what's your thought?
She's in on the scam. What do you mean, what's her thought? She's all in. She's in Baltimore.
Do we have some kind of bias with Baltimore?
Well, my all-time favorite songwriter, no disrespect to Bob Dylan, is Randy Newman, who actually wrote a song that the Chamber of Commerce is still mad at called Baltimore. Man, it's hard just to live. That's all. I'm just saying anything. I went to Camden Yards. I get it. You don't get mugged, get your car, you're lucky. Everything's fine.
I love my city, man.
Look, now she's getting defensive. Hey, I didn't beat you up for that scam. Don't start any trouble. I can always go back to David Long. He's from California.
Okay, so I've always started trouble, and I'll probably start a little bit of trouble with my answer for this question, really, because I think it's neither. I don't think it's training or recruiting. I think that organizations need to step back a little bit, make sure you have a really clear mission, vision, core values, and that is articulated throughout the organization. You should be able to walk up to any of your employees and say, what are our core values? How do we do what we do? What is the way?
So Sandy, you're saying we really don't need recruiting or training. It's been a pleasure.
That's not what I said.
Show.
I'm going to ask you to listen. I'm going to ask you to listen to the words I say. So what I said was that you should step back.
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Step back first. And while you do that, build a value proposition that is going to be attractive for the candidate pool that we have. And diversity, equity, and inclusion a strategy should be included there. And I'm going to point out our screen right here. Right? We have and Rhonda, I'm not going to count you because you're Larry's publicist, right? I want a publicist. That sounds like fun. So we've got like 15% women representation on here. There are 50% women in your candidate pool and in your client pool.
Sandy, I'm gonna shock you. I agree with you because it is. I own the store. It is expensive to replace people, and absolutely the best thing is to keep them. And as far as women, you don't have to tell me they listen better, they build rapport better. The best service writer I ever had was a woman. Women are better at this than men. We just have to get over some of the hurdles that it's perceived as a boys' club.
Well, I agree, and I think that, you know, there's a saying about if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting.
Yep.
And so that for me requires, in order to retain, because it's the retention for me, before you can start on training and recruiting, right? You got to have something where people are going to stay. And turnover in just women it has always and remains, particularly in sales, very, very high. Right. So I'll leave it at that. Keep doing what we're doing. We're going to keep getting what we're getting.
Yeah. David Long had a comment there. He had his hand up. Go ahead, David.
So to answer that question from my perspective, why do you need somebody for training and recruiting? Charlie Brown's teacher is why. Like, I have companies all around the planet that hire me and pay me crazy money to train their teams, yet my training eventually, because it's so often and so frequent, turns into wah, 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 wah. And my team needs to hear a different voice and a different perspective in order for them to connect all the dots. And then the recruiting piece, well, I've done that for years. To Sandy's point, keep doing what you're doing. You're going to keep getting what you're getting. And, you know, we track every single day how many contacts, how many appointments, how many interviews, and how many hires. And when that's not working out the way you want it to, you got to go outside of yourself for help. And that's where Larry came in. And those are my comments around those two things.
And I hear, thanks, David. I hear Rhonda and maybe Janice has some comments. Go ahead, Rhonda. You're muted.
Okay, well, I'd like to say this. I think that every organization needs some kind of structure in terms of a employee handbook or something that basically defines the culture of the organization. But I have in my long career, and as you can see, do a gold watch and I'm still waiting for it. I have definitely been sitting through training sessions for various subjects, mostly marketing because that's my field. I have napped during them, fallen asleep several times. And then I sat through one of Larry's training sessions and he had 20 some people in a room. You want to talk about diversity? There were people who just got out of high school or didn't make it out of high school. And there were people who were in different businesses, you know, after 10 years of experience, and every single one of them was engaged. And I think that that's not something you can get from just somebody in your dealership necessarily. I think you need a professional for the training sessions, and that's what, and not just because I get paid for it, but that's what Larry does. You know, you just don't get to see people have everybody's attention, have everybody's laughing or everybody interested or everybody not sleeping in a room like that, which very often happens in training. So I think it's a combination.
Fantastic. Janice, did you want to comment? I mean, you've been in training for a while, but you also have your own business and you're a woman in the car business. Not to say that makes you difference, but
Wait, she's a woman in the car business, then she has her own business.
Go ahead, Janice.
Hey guys.
Oh my God, I don't think I have this thing flipped around the right way.
Guys, we got you.
We can hear
I want
you.
to see my face.
But is that an employee termination letter on your screen? One thing while she's figuring this out.
I'll show you. How about I show you my Chrysler professional member thing? All I was gonna say is I believe the constant training. I so believe that, and I think I think dealers make the mistake, and we've all seen it before. They just put somebody at a desk and they don't give them any training, and then they expect success. So I love training of almost any kind. And I think a combination both, because how are you going to have training every day? You're going to have a trainer in the dealer, maybe okay for some of the big stores in the States, but some of our smaller stores in Canada, just not possible, especially for some of these remote stores that I work with, like up in North Bay and Thunder Bay and, even in Lindsay and Peterborough, like these smaller stores. So, maybe what we need is train the trainer. So what is some resources that they can train their staff with? And I was just going to tell you guys, I'm going to give you a quick example of what I'm still hearing out there. I was in a Nissan store, spent the day with a girl, brand new. She's been on the job 3 weeks and was doing all email and all text and hadn't made a phone call. So I said to her, let's pick up the phone. I said, I'm going to phone somebody for you. The first customer I hit, okay, the first phone call out, the woman says to me, she says, I have 2 open recalls. She said, and I left a message at this dealership weeks ago and no one's called me back. So do you think I can get an appointment out of her? Yeah. So what I'm just seeing too is I think the emails and the texts are not solving everything. And I think a lot of the younger generation, I've heard 20 years, I was just counting, I got 33 years in the car business, but I think the younger generation is looking for that, and they need it more than ever on the face-to-face, on how to talk to people. I mean, I feel sorry, these young people don't even know how to communicate, not on the phone and certainly not face-to-face. So
Dennis, I couldn't agree with you more. I was on an AutoHub show a couple weeks ago, and brilliant people, much smarter than me, every technical thing you could talk about. And I held up my pen and they all laughed at me because I said, this is what I consider tech. Because if we can teach people to write things down, and if we can teach people to actually listen, to respond, Janice, they laugh at me all over the country and in your country when I say, how dumb is it when a salesperson gets told by a customer, I have 2 kids, but he's not listening. And 45 minutes later, he says, you have any kids? Yeah, I had the same 2 I had 45 minutes ago. Stupid, I didn't put them on eBay.
Oh God!
Yeah.
You know what? I hear you on that too. Like when they answer the phone, even on the sales call when I'm training, please listen, because people tell you so much information, and the reps are missing it because you're right. They're not listening. They're not writing it down. Take notes. Find out even what the initial problem. I'm talking about service calls, Larry. Like I have someone call and say, my check engine light's on. And then they go through all the steps of updating the information and getting the email, doing the right things. And why'd you call?
Janice, what do you do? What do you do at the dealership?
What do I do, Larry? Well, I'm a BDC trainer, sir.
Oh, cool. Hey, you know what? Yeah. No charge. Call me anytime. We can talk. I love BDC. At my store, I punched somebody in the face once when a salesman said to me, she brought that guy in. Why? We made $5,000 on him, and I'm talking about 1990.
Oh God! If you can please tell them why we brought the customer in. I hear that all the time.
Give me a call.
The guy in.
Give me a call. Okay. Anytime we can talk. There's no charge. We'll have some fun. I'll even do a little pump up. I like you much better than Sandy. She's in Baltimore. She's trying to put me out of business. It's very sad.
I have to side with Sandy, though.
I'm so disappointed.
Okay. I have to side with Sandy. And if anybody thinks the car business is not male dominated, is lacking diversity, go on a couple of websites and check My Team. Okay, go look. Any dealer, I challenge you. They're all white and they're all male. Sorry.
Slow down. I'm Jewish. Okay. I still remember gold in my ear, and now we have Joe Biden. Please, I'm on your side too.
Dennis, we're gonna start saying predominantly male instead of male dominated.
Okay. So,
Important
yeah.
distinction.
Hey guys, would you please go to somebody else? Now I can't go to Canada or Baltimore. There's got to be somebody on here that will let
Larry,
me.
next time you're in town, we'll get together for sure.
It's an
Hire more women.
I'm gonna bust the balls.
and don't get jealous, Sandy. We still have the slip and fall thing set up.
Well, JB was actually on.
Janice, go to the used car conference in Toronto at the end of the month. Larry will be there for 9 hours if they let him through the border, because I think they might
It'll be.
go let him set.
I'm driving.
Larry and I have that set up already. He's going in my trunk of my car and bringing it over that way.
Janice, it would be my pleasure. See, all kidding aside, I'd love to meet you. I can already tell you have energy and passion, and that's all I really care about. People that care.
All right, I'll see if I can come to the used car week, you guys in Toronto. I definitely want to meet you, Ian. So
Yeah, no worries.
to get together.
We're there. We're there.
Did we ever find Tom back, or is he still in phone limbo?
Don't
He's
know.
still in phone limbo.
Don't know. And JB, I think JB had a comment as well. He was on, I think, LinkedIn Live, and now he's on the show on Zoom. So maybe, JB, you had some thoughts there? You're muted. Maybe not. Anyway, go ahead, Jeff. Next question.
I'm on.
Oh, yes, there he goes. Go ahead, JB. You had some thoughts.
No, and I may be a little prejudiced here because I'm working with Larry now in Career Changers. But, you know, I've worked around the car industry since the 80s and stuff. And when he mentioned about treating everybody with respect, eons ago, before I was even 18, I had to get my father to sign my contracts. I sold mobile homes. And I remember this guy pulled up and he had one of the old 9-passenger station wagons. And his whole family got out. Everybody had pig stuff all over their boots and everything. And none of the other salespeople would go and talk to him. When I talked to him, I wound up selling 3 full double-sided mobile homes loaded down. Found out he was the largest pig farmer in the Southeast. And he bought, all 3 of his boys were getting married, and he gave them land and put their mobile homes on there until they build their own houses. And so, you know, this was in the 80s, right? So I walked away with almost a $20,000 check just from that one sale. And that really stepped in.
Cardone and Tony Robbins better back up. I got a guy that can sell mobile homes to pig farmers.
There you go. And so, and you know, as much as I think I know, in just a few weeks with Larry, I've learned even more.
Wow.
Well, thank you, JB. By the way, JB is another guy, just the most outstanding attitude. No matter what it is, I can help you with that. He's not the kind of guy you have to ask. He volunteers, he jumps in. Man, what an exciting addition to our team. Guys, is there anybody else? Because we got so many damn folks on here, and boy, it's great to see them. Is there anybody else we haven't spoken to or haven't gotten an opinion from?
Plus, I'm so good looking. I'm out of here.
He's working with me one day. He's already crazy. Go ahead.
While we're waiting for somebody else to speak up here, I did want to make a comment.
Go ahead.
Steve and I had the pleasure of seeing Larry in action in Edmonton. And what was very interesting, it tells us there is hope in the industry. In 2 seminars, approximately 175, 200 people, my amateur thing, because we both did check-in for it, was about 20% of them were ladies. I'm not going to say women, they were ladies, because that just sort of tells the whole thing, or female. 75% were diverse. Now, Canada's a little bit different than the States. Edmonton is more like Dallas or whatever, but there was a huge group of different ethnicities and everything in there. And the only person that I did not see engaged watching Larry, like their eyes fixated on him, and in fact missed Larry jumping up and down on the chair, was a sales manager who was in the back sitting on his laptop, probably 40-something, early 50s, busy ordering his cars or doing something else. And you could tell he was there because the boss told him he had to be there. So that's my 2 cents on that part. Anybody going to comment on this part for Larry? GRH04, whoever you are, have you got an opinion? I'll move right along then. Final question here, and we've got about another 15 minutes left in the show. If you had to pick one, Larry, what's the most effective plan to achieve success? Training or recruiting? Why is that?
The only reason I'll say training is obviously the concept of recruiting is finding the perfect person. But if you take the greatest person, the most perfect candidate, and you put him in a situation that Sandy was talking about, she was 100% correct, where there's no process, where there's no culture. It's the old bad boss that you do something great, and he goes, "How time you did something right," instead of hugging you and giving you a high five. But I think if you don't train, if there's not a push to explain what we're doing and how we're doing it, and role play and practice when things get tough, I'll say this really quickly, but I mean it. When I get young guys in my classes that are football fans, I explain to them that ESPN has worked their brain because all they see is Bill Belichick, and I swear I got it on tape that I said before Brady left that we'll know how great Belichick is when Brady's not there. And they don't know that the greatest coach ever is Vince Lombardi, because Vince Lombardi took a team that was 1-10-1 and made them champions. They won 5 out of 6 championships, including the first 2 Super Bowls. All Lombardi was about blocking and tackling. He ran plays that everybody knew were coming, but nobody could stop them because their process was perfect. So if I have to veer on one, it's training. And I have no dog in that hunt because, hey, I get paid well to train, I get paid well to recruit, but I think training is the more important in my humble opinion.
Perfect, thank you. JB's got his hand up, so we got to hear from the man that sold 2 double wides to pig farmers. JB.
I knew y'all'd like that. So I agree with Larry on this because my grandpa used to have a saying. I'm from the South, if you couldn't hear from my voice. But he'd always say a blind squirrel with a broke leg can find a nut in the forest if he searches hard enough. And so if you have the right attitude, you could be trained to open their eyes and get that leg fixed and become successful.
Perfect. Yeah. Tony, you've been quiet for a long time, so what do you think?
No, I agree 100% with what Larry was saying, and that's kind of like what I was touching on before. It's process driven, and it's not so much the product knowledge training. You have to know a little bit about products, but my product knowledge is far lacking. It's funny, we were actually looking at some of the sales numbers from last month with a couple salespeople this morning, and they were saying, "Oh man, look at this guy. He's only been here for about 3 months, but he's number 3 year to date in gross." So why do you think that is? I said, "I don't know." I said, "It's all the experience. It's customer service. When people are dealing with them, they like dealing with them. They know that if they need something, they can call them. It's just the accountability part. And training has got to be process driven. It's got to be done every day. It has to be a part of the routine. It just has to be part of the habit building."
Perfect. Dawn, what do you think? Dawn, have we lost you? Aha. So why don't we move on to Sandy? What do you think, Sandy? Training or recruiting? Because you're a recruiter, more relation.
Well, I do recruit, but just like I said, one of the, when I work with a client, the first thing I'm talking about is with them is what's going to keep these candidates there, because as and I think that it was kind of the question before maybe is, when there's a combination of inside, outside, outsourced recruiting or training, like I like the combination, right? But training is super, super important. And it's also important to recruiting, because even though I might bring some candidates that I think are gonna, I don't even want to say a good fit, because I think we should throw good fit out the window, right? And I really do. That has become my belief. Good fit should go out the window, and the employer needs to figure out, like indicated before, how to fit the new generations, right? And how what are they looking for? Because if we keep doing the same thing, we're going to keep getting the same people. So, but part of training for me is educating the hiring managers on what is that value proposition. Today, for me, recruiting is almost marketing, right? It is, I've got to market these employers to these candidates. And part of that is knowing and training your hiring managers on what are the benefits? When do they start? What's the 401k? Why is it great to work around here? You know, like all of those things that I think that's a piece of training other than the processes and everything else that we do on a daily basis. I think that might be a little piece that could help in the recruiting process, right? And bringing people on.
Perfect. No, that's a very good point. I really appreciate that. And you hit on something very interesting there, Sandy, which is, to me, be a good fit means that if we're doing what we're doing, so let's have you fit, so we're going to keep getting what we're getting. It was very interesting. Harry, what's your position on this? You're still on mute.
There we go. Training, definitely. You know, we've talked a lot this morning about finding the right fit. And that's the most frightening part of the whole job, really. Finding the right people. It's convincing people this is a great industry to go into. Let's face it, we're not getting college graduates to come in, unfortunately. They think it's a disgusting, dirty industry. And I don't know how to change that. To get the proper people in the front door to talk to, at least to see who we are and what we are. When I got into the industry, I knew nothing about the auto industry. I had a customer, I was in banking. He said, come join me, show me your last pay stub, here's $5,000 more. And that was back in 1980. And well, $5,080 for me was a lot of money. And we can't get people. I mean, I have a degree, I went to grad school, and he convinced me to join his business with no job title. And it's finding the people like myself, how we got into the industry, how Larry got into this industry. It's to drag these people out. And Sandy, you're right about women. We need more women. We need people of color. Our group had, our Volkswagen Subaru store has a woman GM who's been with the company for years. She is of color. She is a strong-based woman. She is unbelievably outstanding, how good she is with her team and her people. I just love Karen. I mean, I've worked with her for years and years. She came out of our special fire department, and the woman is just great. It's how do we get women to come in and we don't abuse them? Let's face it, on a male-dominated sales floor, a woman, if she's attractive, gets abused. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's going to happen. But how do you stop it? I'm not sure what the answer is. But training is needed in the social skills and the people skills, not just, what engine that car has. And that's what Larry and I try to bring to the table when we're talking to these people. It's frightening what's going on out there. And this new generation of younger people, I'm 68 years old, is all they live by is this stupid little box. This is their whole life, is getting them to throw that out and get real.
Well, I think a lot of that, and this is something that came up when I was at NADA, and this group of very, passionate Black women happened to, win an award at an event I was at. It's really about telling that story. It's like, not only are there men in the car business who are passionate about it, there's women in the car business who are passionate about it. And really, if you want to recruit other women or other men, you need to have them talk to candidates by sharing their story. Because realistically, there's a lot of misconceptions. I remember when I got into the car business and my brother told me, you're nuts. You shouldn't do that. It's a bad idea. And, I have a family history in the business. So if I'm just getting that from relatives of mine, just imagine the negativity out there from other people. So part of it is the industry's perception, but part of it is just the lack of good stories. The lack of people saying, hey, I got in the car business. This is what it meant for me. And if you want to attract more women, there's got to be stories from other women saying, hey, you might think it's this, it's not, it's this, right? So I think that's part of it, but also it's part of promoting anything that you do is saying, hey, I mean, you got to change the way you do it. And I agree with Sandy. It's marketing. When I look at dealer groups and I look at them every day looking for staff on LinkedIn and elsewhere, they're trying to do a posting, but they don't have no idea how to market it to candidates. No idea. They're just doing postings.
Very, very true.
Like, come work for us. Okay.
The other problem is a lot of people think the industry is a job, not a career.
Yeah.
I took it as a career move, not a job. And if you're not going to take it as a career, you're not going to be successful. I never took a sales up off the floor, but many months I had more sales in our group than anybody. And I never took a sales up. But I carried a business card and it could be sopping wet in my gym pants. And I just knew how to talk to people. And that's what it was all about.
Yeah, for darn sure.
And JP has a thought there.
Anybody else want to make a comment? We're running out of time, and we want to hear anything from anybody quickly. Ian.
JP had a thought there. He's got his hand up. His virtual hand. I don't know. There he goes. Go ahead, JP.
I don't want to step on anybody's toes because I'm just a visitor. Okay to talk?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all right. I agree with everybody here, and I don't know if you've ever read a book. It's called Story Brand by Donald Miller, and he really hits home what I've always believed. It's not about you; it's all about them. And I don't care if you're a hiring person, or you're a manager, or an owner, or you're the salesperson talking to your next potential client. It's all about them. We're just the guy. But when you want to talk about yourself, you know, and to tell people just blindingly how great you are, they get turned off because people want guides to direct them to where they want to be, whether it's buying a car or buying a widget. And, you know, it's nothing wrong with you showing that you know, your credentials. Nothing wrong with that at all. But when you're talking one-on-one, you want to be about them. Let me help you. And just so many people salespeople that I talk to, because I'm on the other side of it, people hammer me all the time about buy this, buy that. We want to coach you, blah, yeah. And it's like, you know, I'm the number one. Let me tell you about our company. We've grown so large and we have X amount of employees and we've sold so many things and all this kind of stuff. I said, but what about me? Okay.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're a hero, great, but I want to be a hero too.
People forget that it's not the owner really, or the GM or your GSM that's paying you, it's your customer. The dealership is the middle person handling the money, and they are not annoyances, they're annuities. Because if you treat people properly, they bring back their friends, they refer countless people. It all starts with our attitude. And Sandy's right. It starts with the attitude from the top. It's got to come down through the ranks. Because if your manager's a jerk, it's pretty likely you're going to be a jerk because he's roughed you up. So just a big process, but it always starts with the customer. JB's 100% right. And if whatever they're interested in, you have to be interested in, because these people are feeding your family.
100%.
For sure.
Well, we're out of time, Jeff. Any final thoughts?
Well, I'd like Larry to give his final thoughts. It says it's the Larry Feldman Show.
I want to thank everybody that was on our show today. Really appreciate it. If anybody wants to reach out just to say hi, man, do I love connecting with people, particularly the people that were on this program, because everybody was so smart and engaged. So thank you for your time. I definitely look forward to talking to everybody and seeing as many people as I can when I'm in Toronto at the end of the month. And I definitely want to thank Jeff and Ian. They've helped move me forward. They're just really, really good guys.
Thanks very much. Have a great week.
We'll bid you adieu. Have a great week. Keep well. And thanks again, Larry, and everybody for putting in their 2 bits. And Sandy, enjoy Maryland.
All right, exactly. Get some crab cakes.